These are the Salatin tractors. I got a hold of his books while I was in Pakistan, and it just, how he said things, the things he was saying just made so much sense. We did 2 combat tours to Iraq from '05 to '08. My battalion lost 26 guys. It was 23 the first tour and 3 the other. And since then, the same group of guys, we've lost 35 to suicide. Now 36 as of last month.
The goal here is to create that purpose, create that drive, and give them a reason to, move forward. A lot of times they come from combat and they're thrown into civilian life, and then that's it. It's like, good luck. And that's a hard transition for a lot of them.
The beauty of that is I'm getting like-minded people together, and the county before country mindset is so critical. I heard that a couple years ago, and it really made me mad the first time I heard it, because I fought for this country. How could you say the county's more important? Who are you going to rely on? It's got to be your neighbor.
So we are at a really, really cool place, and I feel like I say that every time. I genuinely think that, but off camera you've told me just the amazing things that you're doing here on the farm, but also for other people, and we'll get into that in a minute. You are Dean and you are Jessica,
yeah.
And this is Harshman Farms.
Harshman Pastures.
Harshman Pastures, yes. So this is Harshman Pastures, and you're on how much?
So we own 1.87 acres,
Okay.
and my neighbor has been gracious enough to allow us to use 2 as well.
Okay.
So just under 4.
Okay, that's awesome. And we are at your chickens. We're gonna do
Yep.
chores here in a second. But tell me a little bit about like how you got here and why you're farming.
Sure. I was in the Marine Corps. I did 4 years in infantry. I did 2 combat tours in Iraq. And I got out in '09, and basically I was doing kind of odd jobs here and there. I was kind of a gypsy. I got a contracting job in Pakistan in 2013 with Booz Allen Hamilton. While I was out there, the Lord kind of was really able to get a hold of me, and in some form or fashion, I was kind of told that I should be farming and I should be helping veterans. It's taken all this time to actually get here. So in fast forward, I guess, in 2020, we actually had purchased this property, and that was kind of our first real start into this. Before that, we had a ½ acre in the city, and I had some laying hens, even though I wasn't allowed to, but I'm not afraid of
under the radar.
Yeah, as long as you keep the neighbors happy, everything's fine. So yeah, this is kind of our full-time gig now. I've left the service, I guess. That's not even how I want to say it either.
You left the workforce.
For the last 20 years, I've served the government in some form or fashion, either through the military, as a contractor, a private, or for the public. I was a prototype machinist for the Air Force Institute of Technology for 8 years. I've since left that, and this is kind of our full-time gig.
That's awesome.
And the fulfillment out here, just knowing that I'm able to give my kids an appropriate place to actually grow up, a place where I hope they'll take over and want to come back home, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And also we're feeding pretty much the towns or whatever around here.
Yeah, all the locals.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's mainly with your chicken that you've got right
Yes,
here.
yes. So this year we've done 600 chickens. We started 4 years ago with 25.
Okay.
And it was kind of one of those things, let's just see how this goes, We left none for ourselves. It all just kind of went away. And then so next year we doubled, and it was 50, and then it was 100, and then it was 200 last year. We still didn't have any left over for ourselves.
Oh my gosh.
And so it was like, okay, let's just triple, let's see how this goes. So we tripled, and so now has been 610. This is the last 150 we have for the year. This is kind of the...
And we hardly have any left, so.
Yeah, we don't have much left. The chicken breasts, the tenders, the thighs, they all go pretty quick.
Wow.
And
how are you selling them at like farmers markets or?
so we do on-farm sales, and we also have a little market down the hill here, we'll show you later,
Okay.
that is really the place that we sell it. So I also have a wholesaler too. There's another farm about a ½ hour away that has been buying the chicken as well.
Okay.
So,
Very cool.
Yeah.
So you said we were going to do chicken chores.
Yep.
So let's do some chores here.
Cool.
And these look like Salatin tractors.
Yes, these are the Salatin tractors. I got a hold of his books while I was in Pakistan, and it just, how he said things, the things he was saying just made so much sense that it just, how could I go anywhere else?
Yep.
Yeah, we have the nifty chick lifts.
Oh, yeah.
They are definitely handy.
A lifesaver.
There are some things I want to kind of modify to it, so I'll probably be making my own. I have a start of a machine shop in my little shop up there that
Okay.
I'm going to be doing some other things
Okay.
to them. So
Push it down.
it's that easy. And as soon as you're done, you
Yep.
up, down, and that's it. Yep.
They just follow right along. They do.
I think that's about it. They're about
They're
5
5
weeks old.
Okay.
And then these guys are
7.
7 weeks old. They're next.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're next. So the reason I'm going not in a straight line is because the sizing wasn't perfect for the last couple batches, and I had to step up through. And so that's the only reason it's going weird.
It's really easier to go down a hill at an angle, because this is, I mean, I don't know if you can see on camera, but it's like kind of
It is.
down.
Yeah.
It's not super steep, but
Yeah.
versus being completely slanted, it probably helps with the water to be.
Yeah, sure.
It's really interesting, the regenerative part of it. If you step on that end of the farm and look this way, you can see where we've ran the tractors and where they've like been freshly ran. And it's just the green, how it just regenerates itself. It's really impressive. And then you can kind of tell where it's not, but then it'll become just real lush and like perfect. It was a peach orchard.
Really?
Yeah. He had just pulled the trees. So this whole 2 acres here is our neighbors who he lets us lease from him. But he just pulled the trees. So he had a peach orchard here and an apple orchard over there. And he pulled the trees about 4 years ago. So he had gotten into a really bad car accident. And he was not, it was like a decade ago, and he was not able to maintain the orchard, but was able to maintain like the farm stand and all of that. No, he just, unfortunately, he pulled him right before we moved in. And I know, it's like we just missed that mark, but it's
But that's
okay.
it. It's not
It's
how it's meant to
okay.
be,
That's
right?
right. That's right. And we will fence this in. Probably over the winter, we'll run this, but we have a milk cow coming. She's pregnant right now, and she'll birth in, I think
February.
yeah. And so she'll be in milk in March. So that's really exciting. Yeah.
So while we were talking, so you got them fed, you're
Yep.
filling the water right now.
Yep.
You mentioned off camera, Joel Southman always says don't truck water.
Don't
And
truck
you're like,
water.
But I gotta truck water a little bit.
Yep.
So you've got this drum back here,
Yep.
and it's just plumbed in.
Yep, so it's all gravity fed. It takes a little while, but for right now, this is what we got to do. You can kind of see I just put in, there's a hydrant way out there.
Oh, it's like
Yeah, there's a
over
hydrant.
there.
They're at the chop shop, and then I have one over by the shop over here.
Okay.
We just put in some water lines, and so the hope is I'll be able to get some hoses there, and then I can have my mule truck bed back.
Yeah.
Because it's
taking up a little bit.
it's taking up a lot of space, yeah. The cool thing with all this though is it's low tech. You don't have to worry about, oh, the internet's down, I can't do my job, the mule doesn't work, I can't do my job. I can. It's a lot more stressful without the mule, but it can be done. We can truck the water over here with 5-gallon buckets and fill it all up and all that.
Yeah.
You can see that I have some repair work I need to do on these.
Yeah.
I have a
Broken crossbar.
cross brace here.
Yeah.
There's supposed to be one across here that broke the other day. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you
It's
look
okay.
at Salatin's farm, all of his coops, he's got like extra wood laying on top, and now we get it. We get why. Because there's such an easy fix. It's so quick, and you just move on. That's
and,
it.
If there's like a hole or a rut or something, like
Yep.
that,
Yeah,
pull it
that's
down
the-
so animals don't get under.
Yep.
Yeah, the deck board's there for that, for sure.
Absolutely. So now
Yeah.
we've got the next tractor.
Yeah, we're gonna go do the other one.
So as he's doing the chores for the other tractor, so you just mentioned that you're getting a dairy cow. So how is the farm like progressing then? You said over the last 4 years, you haven't even had enough chicken left to feed yourself.
No.
So you didn't really start this as a homestead then, right? Like you're
No.
supplying the community, not really
Yeah.
yourself. So what are your plans with the dairy cow, and how is the farm progressing?
Yeah, so, I mean, it's just growing. I think the progression is more, I don't know, we've had to really like stop and take a moment and say like, what are we doing for ourselves versus the community? Because the community, I feel like communities are, they're just chomping at the bit for healthy homegrown food, knowing their farmers, that kind of stuff. So when we started this, it was kind of like we went all in. Somebody had challenged us probably a year ago, a really good friend of ours that was like, why are you holding back? What are you doing? And so we were like, fine, we'll do 600 birds, and that's what we did. And so we know this year we'll have chicken left for ourselves, which will be nice. And then with the cow was on a whim decision.
Okay.
Because I've always been, I'm the planner, which has not always been the thing. But I'm like, let's take it slow. Let's not do any more big projects until we get like solid in what we're doing. But it just like, once you start this, it just kind of takes off. and then all of this unfolds. So we're trying to keep like our mental capacity in check, but the milk cow will obviously drink our own raw milk. That was kind of a movement that we started after going to the Rogue Food conferences. We were really interested in drinking raw milk. We've been drinking raw milk for about a year, and as far as like health-wise, we saw a drastic change within a year.
Raw milk.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we have been so disappointed that while on the road, we haven't been able to really get raw milk. One, it's hard to find when we're moving so often.
It is.
And two, it's quite expensive. And
it is.
I'm not saying that the value isn't worth it.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, we got to put our dollars where we have to put our dollars. And
Yeah.
so we are excited too about getting our own
Yeah.
dairy cow once we're settled, because that's like the one thing that I'm like, I want raw milk again. I don't even drink milk anymore. I barely put it in my oatmeal in the morning.
Yeah.
Like, so
Yeah,
I
it's-
totally feel that drive. Once you get in it, you're like, oh man, this
Yeah.
is awesome.
Yeah, so we're trying to progress to that self-sustaining, where we don't really have to go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
And truly, we are almost to a point where we really don't have to go to the grocery store. We have some friends of ours who live south of here, Strong Roots Farms.
Oh yeah.
They do some beef cattle, and so we got, beef from them. We have obviously our own chickens, and then over here we farm this. That's where we do our produce and stuff. So there's a whole garden, and then on the other side of the tree line is a whole bottom that's a garden. And so the farm market, we provide the produce for the farm market. And so really like just canning, it's like just prepping for the winter seasons, having our own food. Our neighbors, everybody here, like Mr. Carl, the owner of the property, his son lives like right on the other side of their house. So it's just one big happy family working towards the same goal of, self-sustaining, eating good homegrown food, back to the basics like it used to be.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
So where are we going next?
So Murphy's Law, the mule's dead. We can just go walk over to the chop shop, I guess. I'll finish the chores after I jump it. So, real quick though, I'm not sure if you can see this from here.
That's what I was just telling her
You're
about.
talking about what you can
Yeah,
see, the
you can
difference?
see where I came through here first with 2 tractors, and then I came back up around to the outside, and then I came back around this way, and I'm going back up at the end.
Yeah.
We haven't had rain since they came through over here, and so that's why it still looks pretty bad. But you can see,
But
Oh,
what has it
even
been?
still, it's greener than
It's been 4 weeks with no rain here, and you can see that it's much greener than
yeah.
anywhere else. The idea behind this guy, this is version 3. I wanted a mobile coop. I started this out in our little half-acre plot that we had. The idea was, if you keep chickens in the same spot, they get stinky. And so obviously, in the name of treating a chicken, like Salatin says, the chickenness of the chicken ought to be truly honored. They're a pasture. They like to move. They like to flock. And so this is a homestead too. This is not just a working farm. This is where the kids go and play. And obviously this is a very special day, so we don't do the work yet. It's all play first, I guess. So in order to move them around like they normally would, to honor that chickenness, I've created this. This will actually hold 12 chickens. We have 7 right now. So basically they have enough of a roost in there. They got the hen boxes, I'll show you.
Oh yeah.
No eggs yet.
Easy little boxes.
Yeah.
Nice bedding.
Yeah.
This water's interesting.
Yeah,
And
so yeah, the cool thing with this is that it'll hold about 4 gallons. I have a clean out at the end, so in case I need to clean out all the algae or whatever happens,
Yeah.
but you fill it up here. You don't ever have to actually go inside.
Yeah. That's
The coop?
so nice.
Yeah.
And then I just saw something like this literally yesterday, where is that so that they don't get run over and it rolls with the...
My thought process on that was it should be able to roll easier because you're spread loading all the weight across that.
Yeah. So there's weight on that, on this PVC.
Not intentionally, no. The weight is,
Oh no, not really.
it's supposed to kind of be a roller.
Oh yeah?
It actually didn't work.
Oh really?
No, so
Okay.
the version 4 will be a touch bigger,
Okay.
a touch skinnier on the wood, so it's a touch lighter.
Okay.
And then I'll probably have something kind of like the chick lift over here as
Okay,
well.
yeah.
It just makes more sense. I tried, and so that's,
No, I level, like this feels really perfect.
yeah.
That they can be outside, but they also get shade. but they also aren't running around getting in your garden and your flower bed and your neighbor's flowers.
Right.
Like, especially being on a
They're no respecter of property lines.
not even a
That's
little
right.
bit. So I love it. I think this is really cool.
Yeah, we used to have the ladder on a pulley system. I have the door on a pulley system, but I don't close it until it's 0 degrees outside.
And even then, they probably don't really want to come outside anyway.
They don't, right, they don't care much. It seems they're pretty happy in here. I don't
Yeah.
have any problems with them.
That's awesome.
The feeder, so the feed that I get for everything on this property comes from Clayton, Ohio, from a guy named Zink, and really good feed, high quality, non-GMO. They're certified to have a no spray or anything like that, and it's fresh. And that's the thing is, as soon as you grind feed, you got about 2 weeks before you lose the usability of the vitamins and minerals in it. They oxidize, and so that's why I like with flour, you have like 3 days and you lose 80% of all the good stuff in the flour.
I
Yeah,
didn't realize that.
yeah. So he tells me that I should have a trough feeder, kind of like I do for the meat birds. I just haven't had one yet, so I kind of throw it on the ground and they scratch through.
We in Michigan, and even for his meat birds, he doesn't use troughs. He just throws all the feed on the ground. He's like, they eat it.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? No,
Yeah.
this is too simple.
Right.
What do you mean?
Yeah, there is a beauty in the simplicity of things. There really is.
Yeah.
I'm really good at really overthinking, overcomplicating things.
I
I've
think
that.
we all are.
But well, so yes, I agree. But I think that because of my machinist kind of mind, everything's got to be just right, plus or minus this tolerance. You know,
Yeah.
just cut the thing.
Yeah.
It'll work.
Right.
You know, if you
Yeah.
have to use a couple more screws or a couple more staples, it'll be fine.
He
Right.
can
And,
take an hour project and make it a whole day's worth of work.
Yeah, and that's
I'm like, oh, okay.
yeah. The cool thing with homesteading is that you can sit out here and you can see all the things that got to get done. Oh my gosh, I got this. I have a trench open still where I ran the water and the power to the chop shop this year. It's still open because I accidentally cut through the leach lines. You know, oh my gosh, I could stress out about all these things, or you could sit back and choose to be thankful and grateful for what you have. I have 2 acres that are mine, and I'm able to do whatever I want on there, and I can provide for my family with this. Thank you, Lord, for giving me these things, you know? And so that's kind of the mindset that I'm trying to transition to. It's been a long, hard journey with all the combat and the things that I've had to deal with specifically recently. It's one of those things where you can choose life. You can choose the crazy interruptions. You can choose to enjoy the tea time with Haley May and stopping the work and going on a dirt bike ride on your flat 2 acres with your boys because it's going to mean the world to them. The work will always be there. And,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Exactly.
you get 18 summers with them, you know?
Isn't that crazy?
You get 18 times to hang out with them in the summer. So
So that's a great place to put in the fact that you're not just doing this for your family or for
Right.
income. Something else has come through this.
yeah, so
Talk through that.
sure. So while I was in Pakistan as a contractor, the other part of my calling was for sure to help the combat veterans like me. Obviously, the suicide thing is totally out of control, and so I don't know exactly what that looks like yet. However, so I've had 2 reunions here on my property for my unit. Since '09, I got out. It was a phone call every 3 to 4 months. Hey, did you hear about so-and-so this? Hey, did you hear about so-and-so that? He killed himself. He shot at somebody. He shot a car. All these crazy things. And nothing was helping. No one could do anything that would help. And so on our 35th suicide, for perspective, so we did 2 combat tours to Iraq from '05 to '08. And my battalion lost 26 guys. It was 23 the first tour and 3 the other. And since then, the same group of guys, we've lost 35 to suicide. Now 36 as of last month. So on that 35th suicide, it was our corpsman. It was the medic. It was the guy that would help us when we were hurt. And it was too much for me. And so I told everybody, I said, hey, rally up at my house. I don't know how we're going to fix this, but we're going to figure something out. So I asked for help on Facebook of the local people and the restaurants and everything, and there was just a huge outpouring of help and money. And you know, it cost about $28,000, I think, for this whole thing, where we had 174 guys here on the property in tents and the local motels and Airbnbs, and we all came out and really we sat around a fire and we kind of remembered that there are people like us out there, and there are people that understand. And since then, we haven't had a suicide up until last month, and that was back in 2021. And then
So for 3 years.
for
3 years.
yeah, for 3 years there was no suicides, and that was the biggest break in suicides that we've had the entire time.
Over
And
10 years.
yes, and so looking back, we had another reunion as well a year later after the first one, and it was just as good. There were just as many people that showed up, and the common thread was that the wives were invited, the families were invited, the kids were there. And I really think the thing that worked, that quite a bit of the foundations really don't do, is like fully include the families in all the events and all the things, and just have them there, because she sees my crazy every day. And if she doesn't have anybody else to kind of bounce off ideas and to help, or have them help, how does she know how to deal with this, other than the fact that the Lord has given us the ability to handle each other this long, you know? And so knowing that there were some high-risk people who had fiancés and girlfriends and wives and kids, and they're able to connect and network, it was really a big thing.
Yeah.
And so actually there was a song written at our first reunion. It was called Outside the Wire, and it was by a Marine that had a really cool song that it was kind of like Screw You to the Marine Corps kind of song. Tyler J is his name.
Okay.
He was out here and he took all our stories and stuff, and he kind of put it into a song that night, and he played it here the first time over there in that field, and that was just extremely special. So the slogan, Forever Outside the Wire, me and a friend came up with that, and the idea was to kind of recharge the mind of the combat guy who understands what the wire is. Inside the wire, it's usually safe because there's guys that are kind of on the wall protecting you. We're outside the wire. The enemy is still out there. He will relentlessly pursue our spirit, our souls, our minds. And if you're not on guard, truly the whole suicide thing is so quick to come in and invade and attack. And so the idea is to keep people on guard. Hey man, you know, you come here, you rest, you can recharge, and you leave here knowing that you're still in the fight, and you have to stand strong. So here I go get crying now.
Sometimes it's hard
It's
to
really
the Marine that we are going to the service who just committed suicide was the other Marine that helped create that slogan, Forever Outside the Wire. So it's hard. It just goes to show you that they're forever battling demons that people don't understand. And he utilized his outreach. He utilized his sources, you know, to an extent, and it just, sometimes the demons are stronger, you know, and it's...
Walk me through how those experiences now are going to translate into this nonprofit that you're founding.
So the nonprofit, the working title right now is the Rampart.
Okay.
And the Rampart is the wall that will protect you from enemy fire and all that. And that's kind of my thought, is I want this to be a place where I can take 2 or 3 guys at a time who just need a total reset, who need off of the VA drugs, that need a good diet in their lives, they need a good routine, and so also a durable trade. And so I have plenty of trades around me that are more than happy to help me by taking these guys and train them up in a way. And obviously the underlying thing is the gospel. That's really the whole thing here. And
Giving
and
these guys
so-
a purpose, a meaning, and knowing that they're not alone. They don't fight this alone. They don't go through this alone. And giving them a set of skills to move past what they're stuck in, you know, that where the enemy wants them to stay. So helping them progress, help them become something, because a lot of times they come from combat and they're thrown into civilian life, and then that's it. It's like, good luck. And that's a hard transition for a lot of them, so they just get stuck in that. And so the goal here is to create that purpose, create that drive, and give them a reason to, you know, move forward.
And specifically on the farm, you're seeing that positivity come out of
Yeah.
working the land, working with the animals.
Yeah.
You know, even in something like, you've got your equipment back here, like something in death and butchering,
Yes.
Yeah.
there's
Yes.
still that purpose and that steadfast.
Yeah,
right?
so 2 things on that. There have been plenty of studies from all kinds of different sources that show that warriors in a garden find healing. There's something to you being there in the ground, you stewarding something, the husbandry aspect of the animal side of things. There's something there that will heal the soul more than any pharmacology can. I really believe over the years, since '09 I got out, the phone calls would usually end up, how are you doing so good, man? I have no idea. I have no idea. And especially with the craziness of the world, we've found real peace out here.
Yeah.
There's real solace out here.
There was a real pivotal moment for us that, like, moving out here, it was like, what are we doing? Working 9 to 5, coming home, paying somebody to raise my kids, missing out on everything. My daughter turned 1, I was still working full time, and I remember being at her party, and we have another son. His name is Waylon, and he only lived an hour and 38 minutes. So he would have been 9, but when she turned 1, he would have been 7. And so at her parties, I typically just fly a whatever number because they both share the same birthday.
First kid and the last kid have the same birthday.
Yeah.
Hey, you're gonna get me.
And
Okay.
so with Waylon, I was flying a balloon at her first birthday, and something hit me like a ton of bricks. And it was like, what are you doing? Like, she's 1, and I have no core memories with my alive children. I have just buried my life in work and the grind of, climbing the corporate ladder. So there was something real pivotal for us in that moment. And it was like, I need to go home and be with my kids.
Yeah.
I spent so much time nurturing the elderly, which I love, and
Which would satiate her
desire to nurture.
real need to nurture. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was at that moment that it was like, what? Go home? I can't go home. I love my kids, but I don't like them all the time, And it was at that moment that something got a hold of me, like, what are we doing? Why am I doing this? I'm missing out on so much. And so that's when we made the decision, not
Yeah.
long after that, for me to come home.
So after she came home, it was still kind of burning in my mind that how am I, because I am in charge of this, I'll answer to the Lord for everything that happens here. We're called to raise our kids in the fear and admonition of the Lord. How am I going to do that if I'm gone 4 days a week for 10 hours a day, which is a really great schedule, but at the same time, he's going to school the other day that I'm off. So I don't see my kids but a couple hours out of the day, and then maybe a couple more on the weekends. However, I'm trying to get the small business stuff going. I'm trying to do this, and it's all for them, so they have something later on in life, but at the same time, we're all missing out on life.
Right now,
and
today, at the second.
Yeah.
And so to figure out that the balance is still struggle. We're still trying to find that out. But at the end of the day, we're with our kids. We're talking to them about how he killed himself. How did this happen? And I'm able to actually explain to him that this is a tough world. This is a broken world, and we're able to feed that appropriately, I guess.
Yeah.
And so the other part of this too, the way I see it happening on the property, I see maybe a trailer or something out here where I can house 3 or 4 guys at a time and actually intensively care for them. I have no idea how this works out yet, but we're just gonna see how it goes.
I love that you, from the military side and from the nurturing, mothering side, you both came to the same conclusion of the farm is healing me, and it's bringing me closer to my kids, and it's bringing me closer to my faith.
Yeah.
And I want to nurture that also in others.
Yes.
And share that message. It's a lot of people feel that, but not a lot of people are able to get past the barrier to get into it. And I firmly believe that you're doing it and that you're there. So
Thank you.
that is awesome. To push that forward, we are at your machine shop. So what's so special about here?
So real quick, so the machine shop's up there.
Chop shop, that's what I meant. Okay.
The chop shop, we kind of did the numbers on everything, and financially it really doesn't make sense to have your own butchering here, especially if I'm only doing 600 birds. It'll probably be up to 1,000 birds next year at most, because that's the line until you start getting inspected and all that. The numbers are only one part of the story. The other side is the resiliency part of this, and knowing that the stuff that I produce here is quality from day one to freezer camp. And so we do everything here for that reason. We know exactly what we're doing. We know exactly what's going on these birds. I don't use any chlorine. I don't use anything. All the water has no fluoride in it. There's no chlorine in the water. It's all carbon filtered.
And it comes out of your spigot and back down on the ground to the aquifer, to come back out of your spigot, to go back down.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to regenerate everything with everything.
Yeah.
And so that's why you see feathers all over the place. You just kind of blow them out.
Yeah.
And I have a compost pile over here. That's where all the entrails, that's where all the things that we cannot use or sell will go. And then I'll put that out on the fields later.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to do everything regeneratively in that
Yeah.
sense. So the chicken butchering here, this is a 12 by 20 shed basically that I finally ran 100 amps to, and I finally have the water to. For the last couple of years, it was a generator and hoses.
Okay.
And we're just trying to do the best thing we can here. We try to get the kids involved with the butchering. They like to pull the heads off and cut the feet off and stuff, you know, and we try to keep that as respectful as possible. And part of the whole, the butchering side of this, it's not my favorite part. However, it's part of the husbandry side of this. We tell the kids, you know, for you to be able to live, Jesus had to die. And so for you to be able to live every day, this is a really good example because something's got to die every day.
Yeah.
Whether it's a blade of grass, a tofu thing, or a chicken, something's got to die for you to live every day. And so that's how we kind of manage that that shock. You know, and it's really not a shock. My 3-year-old is walking around here barefoot and stuff. You know,
black and white for children. I think that we sometimes as adults, talking about like what we said earlier, like we overcomplicate it, right? And so we get like way too in the weeds on things. And with children up until like age 12 or 13, maybe even longer than that, they're so black and white. You're like, no, this is just how it is. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then they go dance off and go play and do their own thing.
Right.
And I think that we forget that, you know, or we put too much effort into it not being that way.
Right.
So no, I absolutely love that. So from start to finish, here they are. And I can't help but keep looking at the garden. And you talked about that a second ago. So are we able to go see the garden and then we can stop and see the farm store possibly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to see the chop shop too?
Oh, we can go inside.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just kidding.
So it's not a U.S. DA inspected or anything like that.
Right.
It's just a shop that I have kind of put together with stuff that I have found online or.
Wow. And this is just one of those mini sheds.
Yeah. I had a friend of mine contracted out. I just put the insulation in, and so the FRP, the whiteboard, will go all the way around here in the ceiling as well. But
So it's not completely finished, but it is usable.
It's
Organized.
It's clean. It's appropriate.
Nice and clean.
Yeah.
There's elbow room.
Yeah,
Yes.
we dispatch out here, obviously. So you dispatch, scold, feather.
I cut off feet.
Silas is responsible for feet,
That's homeschooling.
head, feet, and then they come up here, and then they eviscerate, and then we piece out, and then they go into the.
You got a garbage disposal.
So I got this piece out of a church 25 minutes away for $150, and I was thrilled because all the little pieces go in here. Generally, all the large pieces of entrails and offal and stuff will go into a bucket, throw it out to the compost.
Okay.
So, but yes, this helps with all the other little stuff that is just all over the place.
Yeah.
Squeegee it down
And
there,
it-
and
We dispose it, and it shoots out into the back, and because it goes into such fine, small pieces, it's basically like water as, like a, I don't know, like it just goes in the
composted
ground.
again.
Yeah.
yeah. Currently, it just kind of goes out to the ground. But the hope is next year, I'm going to capture all that into some IBC totes, and then I'll be able to pump that straight into my compost.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't want to really waste all of the really good stuff in that.
Yeah.
It can be sent straight back to the compost and then back into my fields.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, so I got a bunch of free styrofoam, and so
Yeah.
it came the other day. The guy was like, "Hey, I have the styrofoam." I'm like, "Oh boy." Okay, so I'm throwing it everywhere I can.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got 2 more butcher dates at least, maybe 3 depending on how we do this, and then we'll be shutting back down, and then I'll be able to really get into some heavy-duty construction back here again.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That's the whole thing, though, too, is we don't have everything real fancy and real ready to go. You have to live ugly sometimes just to
Love that word.
start out.
Yeah.
We always get so freaked out about, well, my truck has rust on it and I can't have my farm sign on there because it looks terrible and I need a new one. I need a new this, I need a new that. The only thing new in here is the scale. So I splurged on a scale because it actually prints out a really nice little sticker. Everything else in here is used or really cheap.
Fabricated.
Yeah, or fabricated. Yeah, these are homemade, you know, and
Where did you learn butchering then?
on the 25 we started with.
Yeah,
It took us
just get
8,
in, do it,
yeah.
do it.
Yeah, it took 8 hours with 25 birds. We actually stayed, we have to the rear side of the market, there's a little bit of an area there, and he had a plucker, and so we just kind of figured it out. And I used feed bags for cones, you know, and it took us 8 hours with a couple friends even. And then the year after, we did 50 birds, and that took about 8 hours. And we're like, okay, we're figuring this out.
Okay.
And then 100 birds, we had this, I think we started 3 years ago with this, didn't we?
2 years ago.
So then 100 birds, it was in a couple different chicken butchers, you know, and we had it all sped up a little bit.
We did our
then,
first 200 over here.
So yeah, 200 last year here, and then it has been 600 this year here.
Wow.
And we're down to 6 minutes a bird from kill to package in the freezer. And so we're moving now.
Wow.
And it's
We do
with 4
about 30
people.
Official.
Yeah, we do about
Yeah.
35 birds in 3 hours.
35 birds in 3 hours.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
pretty good.
So we're moving. Now it's kind of a game. So because I use the same amount of infrastructure I did last year for 200 as I am now for 600. And so basically what that means is I'm just extending the season. And so the way I buy the chickens, I've staggered it so that I have a chicken batch in the brooder. I have a chicken batch that I'm just now pulling out of the brooder onto the pasture. You know, you have to time it a little well.
Yeah.
Next year though, we're hoping to maybe shrink it up a little bit, but at least 600 or 700 birds next year, maximum 1,000. But we're going to try to play with the frequency of new birds and the quantity of the chicken batches and all that kind of stuff. So
I love that too, because then you're not butchering 600 at once.
Right.
Oh
You're
yeah.
butchering like 100.
We are not
know.
capable of 600 a day.
It's so great too, because I think we just get caught up in extremes, and we're like, well, if I'm raising 600 birds, you have to do 600 on processing day, and you're like,
Yep.
no,
No.
that doesn't have to be.
Right.
You can break it out and you can make it easy, and it doesn't have to be this big giant chore that
Right.
everyone hates to do.
And that's the whole thing is she's my linchpin with this. She's the one out here killing, scalding, and plucking and all this. And if I were to do this on my own, I'm not even sure I'd want to do 35 all by myself.
Right.
It's just a pain,
Yeah.
you know? And so with her uncle and cousin,
It's like a 4-man crew.
it's quick.
Yeah.
It's super quick.
That's awesome.
And-
me.
And
Yeah.
Silas, of
And
course. And
Silas.
Silas out here cutting the feet off, for sure.
Can't do it without that.
Nope.
So this is the farm stand.
This is the farm stand. We're just kind of seeing it for the first time this morning. Usually I'll come down here about 9:30 and set everything up and make it all kind of pretty again and all that. But you can see the field down here is where we did all the peppers, all the beans, zucchinis.
We had another bed of sunflowers right there as well.
And you said it's open on the honor system.
So for the last 10 years, Carl had a pretty bad car accident and he was not able to keep the actual market open. And so for the last 10 years, he's been doing this honor system thing. And this is pretty much a model of what he has been doing. We kind of stuck with it because you can't change everything all at once, you know. And so he had a system that kind of worked, so let's try to do that.
Yeah.
And so what we've been doing is from Sunday through Tuesday, we have it on honor system. And so from 10 to about 8 p.m. or so, or if I forget, 9:30, 10, or even through the night, we'll have this open, we'll have the vegetables out, it'll all be set up. You have a scale for all the things you gotta weigh out, there's a money box and all that. Throughout the rest of the week, we have somebody here, and that's really, I'd love to have somebody here all the time. It's just, it's not financially feasible yet. The idea behind this is that we're creating community, and that's a really, really big deal to me. We do the Azure Standard drops here too. I'm a drop coordinator. And so the beauty of that is I'm getting like-minded people together. And the county before country mindset is so critical. I heard that a couple years ago, and it really made me mad the first time I heard it because I fought for this country. How could you say the county is more important? Well, at some point, it's very possible that stuff up top will fail. When that happens, who are you going to rely on? It's got to be your neighbors. It has to be the people that are like you in that kind of neighborhood. And so this is what we're trying to do here. We're trying to create a place where people are able to come and help each other out.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of things we're trying to start for next year. Generally, the farm markets around this area have the pumpkins and the mums and everything. We're not doing that this year. This was kind of a test. We kind of jumped into this without any planning anyway for this year. And so next year we'll be able to hit it really hard and do it much more like we want.
Yeah, no, I love that. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, we're kind of winding down now for the season, so there's hardly anything out here.
Just some of your follower crops.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, the simple stuff. Normally when we open this up for the public through the other half of the week, we have all of this open up here. Hey baby. So this will open up like that. We'll have all the doors open. It'll be more visible from the road that we're here.
Yeah. So on the days that it's honor system, it's just vegetables, and then
Yeah.
other than that, then you have
Yeah,
meat
so the struggle is I can't keep this outside.
Yeah.
And so this is my chicken sales right now. I have some chicken breasts, hardly any tenders. That's my last whole chicken for now. And so the ability to have at least it staffed in here or have the honor system in here, that's kind of our goal for next year. We've been doing some research on how to keep it indoors and not have people steal from us, you know. And so we got the Ring cameras up, and we have a mailbox here. We're going to try that next year. I've been doing some research. There's actually Joe's farm up there in Michigan. I was kind of looking at his stuff and how he does it and all that, and we're going to try to do something similar down here.
Yeah.
So I would love to have it to where it's just always inside. We're still doing chicken sales through the days that we're open, but it's not. I wish it was all the time.
Yeah.
And so that would be the thing is if I can't open this up, you can have chicken all the time.
Right. But I mean, like you've said multiple times now, it's a process. You don't have to jump right
That's
into
right.
it. You can do it
That's right.
slowly over time.
Slow and steady wins the race.
Exactly.
Always.
I totally get it. So yeah, now that we're like coming down to the close, given like your background and your history and what you're trying to do with veterans and just keeping them healthy mentally, if you're talking to someone who is a veteran and maybe they're struggling and they don't really know like how to help, what is your advice to them?
Reach out to your guys. There's always somebody available. And if there's not, then that's for you to, that's kind of your call to set up a Facebook group or something, or have a phone directory of some kind. There are people out there that are like you that are fighting the same demons. And just knowing that somebody's out there is a huge step in the right direction. Yeah, I would not really rely on pharmacology to save you from these things. All the manufacturers will tell you they don't even know if this actually works or not. They don't know how it works. They just know that it will do something to you. You know, so I'm not saying it's all bad. I'm just saying that there's no salvation in that.
There's a place and time for medications,
Yeah.
you know.
And I see too, like we talked off camera, a couple other farms that we visited are doing veteran connections on farming. And there really is something there
Yes.
between your mental health and
Absolutely.
the farm and doing something in the dirt with animals,
Yep.
however it may be. So I'm excited to follow up with you in a few years.
I would love to,
and
absolutely.
see exactly how things are working out. I think that'd be awesome, especially my husband being a veteran, his best friend being in the military. I mean, those things are close to our heart as well.
Yep.
And I think what you guys are doing is so amazing. It's so inspirational, and I just am so thankful that you let me come out here and show me
absolutely.
things and open up and just talk with me. It's been amazing. So
Yeah.
thank you very much for having
You're welcome.
me.
See you again here soon.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, like I said, veteran help and just mental health is really big for Paul and I, and we keep finding farmers who are veterans, and they say it, every single one of them. I don't know what it is, but being on a farm, it just feels like serenity, and it helps my brain, and it helps my, just where I am, it helps my health. So seeing more veterans find that solace and also using that for good to help other people is absolutely amazing. So I'm so glad that they welcomed me here and shared their story with me, and I am so excited to see what's next. We still have more farm tours, so we'll see you at the next one.